are here for round one, the SRI Season 1 V8 Supercars Championship, the V8 Daytona 200 here on the SRI Pacific Tour. And get the race here shared with the community real quick. Just out for the 15-minute qualifying session. Start, as I said, I'm Carlin Hicks, running broadcast here in what is early in the morning here stateside, but prime time down in Australia, New Zealand for this Pacific Tour. And then here, the V8 Supercars Championship. Let me get myself retired. Spectator, get on the monitor. And bring you this fantastic event. These cars will be running at 32 laps, actually about 183K for the V8 Daytona 200, and it looks like we've got rain out on the track. We saw heavy cloud cover all throughout yesterday's races in the Sports Car Championship and the Grand National Championship, and I'll be talking about those races a little more later on. But for now, we're going to discuss here the V8s, and it looks like in the rain, that is going to, if that holds over into the race from qualifying, that could very well throw a monkey wrench into things. As you can see, the ambient temperatures low here. It's a springtime race here in week 1. The 10-week season, weeks 1 through 3 are spring weeks, 4 through 7 summer, 8 through 10 autumn. So with a spring week here at Daytona Speed Weeks, rather, you've got a really cool track here with the rain and the clouds out. SRI Season 1 V8 Supercars Championship. Hold with me momentarily. I'm going to get another one of our regulars into the broadcast booth. I'm going to add Mark, who was supposed to be in this race. I don't see him online, but I'll find him here. It'd be great to have him in the color commentary spot as we get underway here for the inaugural race of the SRI V8 Supercars Championship. Got a strong field, as always, of Australian drivers when you come down here to run the V8s. Soon. Looks like about 11 starters here at the moment. My name down there, we don't need to worry about counting as of yet. And we'll get a rundown here as we get towards the start. Inside of 10 minutes left in a 15-minute qualifying session. As I said, there'll be 32 laps, about 183K for the V8 Daytona 200, and we have got Mark C. is the series director here in the SRI V8 Supercars Championship, as well as the tour director, or one of the co-directors for the Pacific Tour. And good to have you here in the booth, Mark. Let me get his audio Read, Mark?
Good evening, Carlin. Oh, good morning to you.
Yeah, good to see you. Watching these guys get through qualifying. I'm going to get it out of the way here early. I told the drivers that there was a fire on board your plane transporting the V8 car, the V8 cars
yes,
to
all the commentary
Daytona.
and everything, yes.
Yeah. So you're
I
looking
can't
for
quote all that, but I can get into the commentary booth. But my only way of viewing the race is through the SRI broadcast, though. My best to do is to give all the information about all these drivers I've seen last season, and best you can do is tell me all about the track, and we can hit the rest together.
Absolutely. You just work the color commentary. We'll be set. Make sure your mic is on share. Go into the party and check your audio settings. Make sure that it's sharing, so it's not just a blank.
I will make sure to do that. Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. Yep.
And we should be good to go. As I said, a lot of Australian drivers, of course, in the V8 Supercars Championship. We've got one American, I believe, and probably a couple other ones down there. Why don't you...
And Nohawk is someone I have raced with publicly before, but not in any championship lobbies. CMC, I am not surprised with where he is at the moment. He is quite a quick driver in these cars, but the driver I am looking for tonight is Spud Mad, who has them settled up out, but he is normally the one to be leading these guys by a fair bit. So Spud Mad is the one to look for tonight.
Spud is an Australian driver, I would assume?
Yeah, Spud is a Kiwi driver. So I'm definitely looking for Spud Mad tonight, and Dirt Riley is the one who says he's really looking for a championship. He says he will try to just race as consistently as possible, as he thinks that is the only way to beat Spud. The other drivers in this championship, they know how quick of a driver Spud is, so what they're just going to be driving as consistent as possible in case anything happens to Spud pit lane wise.
I got you. I'd say, as we were talking about looking through the schedule, it's a, on the Pacific Tour, but it's a globe-trotting series in the V8s. They'll running here at Daytona this week. We'll hit Imola, Long Beach, Spud and the Kiwis. I'm sure looking forward to the New Zealand 100 at Rapuna Park. Then there's a Japanese leg through Sugo and Sakito, then on to Europe and Barcelona and Spa, then back here in the States for Laguna Seca, and then of course the big one, round 10, final race of the season, the Bathurst Quarter 1000 at the legendary Bathurst Panorama. And I being an American racer, I can tell you, I know that race to the Australians is the same thing as the Daytona 500 is, or the Indianapolis 500 is here stateside. And I should tell the viewers, you can check out, there was some on board of it last night. It was OGR Cat Guy winning the inaugural SRI Daytona 500 just a few hours ago here on this very course, but the lanes have opened up. I don't know what the weather forecast is once we get to the race conditions, but this rain definitely changes things up, especially through the infield. And I'll throw it to you here in a second, Mark, about handling these cars around the track. But I know as a driver and having come here to Daytona for many years, it's the thing about the infield is that it's very flat and dirty. It's used as access roads when it's not in use as an actual part of the track. And I think that the sand buildup, the dirt buildup, can play a big role here in this race, especially right here through the bus stop as we just saw Spud going through. But why don't you tell us a little here about the cars, about the Ford Falcon that we'll be competing with as we're watching NZ Jack go around.
Well, Colin, this Ford Falcon is the 2014 Ford Falcon, and something these cars were known to do is to have a lot more lower suspension and to really loosen the suspension on the rear, as they were heavily focused on the street tracks back then. And setup wise with these guys, most of the time you don't like to take the downforce below 4, and I'm not too sure what these guys are doing setup wise, but I have had a look at Dirt Rally setup. These cars you want to have, they're very challenging to drive. If you can have the looser setup and be able to drive that, then that is how the car you want. They're challenging to get when you get it to the loose setup. You want the cars to be loose because that's how they're meant to be driven and handled. Dirt Rally, I know, is very good at that, and he knows to drive these cars loose, as I have tested Dirt Rally's Fuji setup, and I can tell you that is one loose setup. But we've taken Spudmad into third place, so Dirt Rally and Taijo, Spud and Super taking out the top four, as NZ Jack, he's locking up that turn one. But as the weather forecasted, it is heading into overcast after qualifying, and then heading into some heavy cloud for the second half of the race. For CMC is the more American driver you have noticed. How have you seen him racing?
Well, CMC...
And I believe No Hawk raced in the Grand National too.
Yes, he did. He raced in both of the races yesterday as well. CMC, in the sports car race, the Daytona Continental, he was fantastic. He came in late to qualifying, did not get a time in, so he started 13th, shotgun on the field. He drove his way all the way into the top 5 by the round of pit stops around mid-race, and was actually running in the lead on the cycle of pit stops. He ended up finishing 6th in the other BMW, and this is a guy that, you know, for the American drivers, we run here a lot, and he's a guy who knows this track really well. And although I can question his familiarity with the V8 Supercars, but he was very, very quick and very good on the banking. I think the viewpoint that a domestic here can give you guys, and then you can comment on how it translates in the car, Mark. But the thing about Daytona here is you have that infield, flat infield, and then you have the banking, and you have to give and take a little in the setup for each one. If you set up a car to be ultra fast on the banking, it can get diabolical through the infield. And if you set up one to be quick through the infield, you might find yourself unable to hang in the draft with a car on the banking. So you have to have a give and take about it. And the guys who know this track will know how to do that. So how do you think that would translate into the Ford Falcon?
Well, for this, I believe, these cars, they become loose very quickly, and these tyres will, I believe, deteriorate with the colder weather, with the overcast and heavy cloud. I don't believe it will be as hot as it does in Florida, but with these cars, they will get very loose with tyres. These tyres, I believe the drivers will still be going for soft tyres, but the tyres will deteriorate very quickly, and I'm going to be very surprised if we see anyone not pitting this race. It is one of the longer races, meant to going for around 50 minutes to an hour, depending on crashes or anything that happens with the top drivers. But one thing I'm looking out for is, I'm thinking, without the rain, drivers will either go through the bus stop very heavily or turn 1 very heavily, and I think that's something that we have to look out for. I think that's something the drivers will remember. And who is that? NZ Jack. Someone I'm not surprised with Dirt Rally. So yeah, this is what I was trying to think of earlier. But one thing that I have noted is that with these setups that the drivers have been testing throughout practice, is these V8 Supercars are known for accelerating very quickly in the straight line, but once they get to that top speed, they will hold that top speed, and from what I've heard from Spudmad, is that these cars will accelerate quickly, but hold the red line. So what I'm wondering if they can get a setup that can just get to that acceleration quickly, from having more of an infield sorted setup, and just get the acceleration up quickly enough that it hits that red line and stayed enough for the straights. But what I'm thinking, if it stays in the red line, is it will warm up the engine more and possibly the tyres. But with the colder weather, I'm going to see what they're going to do with the brake ducts. That's what I'm really curious about.
Alright, so we are done here in qualifying. We'll give you a quick rundown for our starting order. So hold off on the start there, guys, while we get this done. Dirt Rally.
We still have some drivers on the track left. I believe we've got NZ Jack and... No, Revs Martin's just headed into the pits.
I'm a little ahead of you,
oh,
too,
no,
by the way.
No, yep, you're a bit ahead.
Yeah.
Yep, I've just refreshed.
Alright, so we got Dirt Rally Pro taking the inaugural pole here in the V8 Daytona 200. Taijo will start 2nd. Spudmad will be in 3rd. Super Crusher 4th. NZ Jack will start 5th. NXW will start 6th. CMC for the American starting in 7th. Cool Boy will start 8th. Revs Martin in 9th. Spaceman will start 10th. Misty Apex will be shotgun on the field in 11th. Are they doing a rolling start right off the lights, Mark?
Yes, they are doing a rolling start right off the lights. Usually the V8 Supercars will be doing the normal standing start for the rest of the season, but for Daytona, it's not applicable that they will be able to do a standing start, so the drivers will be heading a rolling start into Turn 1. And as from our own experiences through many championships in the past and years racing here, that Turn 1 first few turns can be very hefty through the Grand Touring cars.
I think so very much. I think that we can translate a lot of what we see today into tomorrow's Touring Car Masters race that'll be here and that'll close out Speed Weeks. Like I said, a lot of experience on this track, not a lot of experience with these cars. And in the sports car race last night, the start of the race was key. There were 2 groups of drivers in the top half, 8, 9 of the field out of the 13 starters that were all running the same speed by 10, 15 laps in, but there were 2 groups separated by like 10 seconds. It's about the traffic, getting through the infield, and like you said, if they're having trouble getting gear in this thing, then they're not going to be able to use the oval to slingshot. So they're going to have, as you said, an infield setup to maximize traction and get it going. So we'll just have to wait and see what these guys do. Any final thoughts? Who do you, as they head to the 2-minute room, who are you going to call it, Mark? Who do you think is the man here at the V8 Daytona 200?
What I'm really curious is, I think Spudmad did get 1 lap in, so that could be a reason. But these drivers, what I can tell you, they fear this man. These drivers want to beat Spudmad, so I could say Spudmad's going to take first because he's dominant on the track. But I'm curious, anything can obviously happen on the track, but I want to take Taijo.
Taijo is a big race
and I want to
guy.
take NZ Jack because they are 2 drivers, or a CMC, as they are drivers who have taken this track very much through the Grand Touring cars in their past, and I believe those guys have definitely had a lot of experience at this track. But Dirt Rally, however, and Spudmad, they are 2 drivers who have a lot of experience in these cars. If you go to the world record timings, you will see a lot of Spudmad and a lot of Dirt Rally.
I think that's a great way to call it. You're looking at, like you said, Dirt Rally and Spudmad if you're picking by the horse, and if you're picking by the course, you're looking at Taijo, NZ Jack, and CMC as guys who know this place really well. And I think that's a good way to call it. I think that I just gotta, knowing from the little bit that I've run in these cars how tough they can be.
Oh yes, they're very tough with how loose they'll get. And I think pit stops will play a big part with how the tyres react. With how long the straights are here, and that it's a very long straight, long curved track, when you're not in the infield, some drivers will make the tyre pressures a little higher. However, with the higher tyre pressures and the cold, may get a little loose when spinning out, as the higher tyre pressures do not have as much grip. So with the colder weather, but still the long straights, going to be very curious to see how they go with the tyres. So one driver does have a problem. I believe that was Spudmad who had a problem in the wrong start. Drums are lining up.
And down into 1, looks like they're in good shape so far. Don't see anybody having trouble. Dirt Rally holding the lead. Spudmad's up into 2nd past Taijo.
Inside corner.
Taijo falling back in 3rd. He's got a move being made on him by NZ Jack.
Yes, Spudmad's already taken 2nd place.
Oh yeah, he's already up there. We've got Dirt Rally in the lead, Spud in the 2nd, Taijo's falling back in 3rd, NZ Jack in 4th.
Jack has taken that inside of that first corner. I believe Super's going to be having a go at NZ Jack. I know that Super is more of an aggressive driver. He will go for a move if he will see one. Super, as I know racing Super a lot before, Super will take a move if he sees one. He will take the inside line if he can see it open.
Looks like we have somebody back there with a little bit of trouble, and I believe that might have been NXW. And he is falling back a little bit back
to that driver. What happened to him? I don't believe he's got any damage. I believe it must have been sort of a loss of control.
It was turn 6.
Martin, I believe he's starting to get it.
Yeah, it was coming through turn 6, getting back onto the oval. He had a little loss of traction. He did a good job of catching it. He was right back there. Rev Martin also, as you said, back at the end of the field in 10th.
Could be a possible of contact, but this is where we see, okay, that yep, they're going to be having a great battle, and Rev Martin, this is going to be a battle of who knows track and who knows car between Rev Martin and No-Hawk, I believe. I believe No-Hawk's had a lot of experience here. I've raced No-Hawk before publicly, and I've raced with Rev Martin in these cars a lot. And I see this is a prime example of someone who knows track and someone who knows car. But I don't believe the outside line is something you want in that first corner. From my experience, I would normally like to sit behind the driver in these first few corners, because I know I don't like taking that outside line in turn 1.
Absolutely, as you see CMC suddenly in here to 6th. We have a little trouble right there. We got a couple of timing penalties on the board. We'll get to those in a moment. But meanwhile, right up front, it's Dirt Rally, and he's got Spudman right on his tail over Full Sitter and your third place qualifier. And they are going 1-2 right now with 3-4-5 battling behind them. Let me get on to NZ Jack and use our chase cam, the world's fastest.
Spudman almost had a go at Dirt Rally there. Spudman knows how confident he is with his speed around these cars. Then I'm wondering if it's going to be lap 3 that Spud's trying to go for it, or if Spud's going to be cautiously waiting. This is, I believe, the 3rd longest race of the season, so I reckon if drivers consider that in mind, they need to be careful with their tyres as well. Spudman's a crazy quick driver, but in the long run, is Dirt Rally going to be saving his tyres? And from what I remember, Dirt Rally is someone who does like to pit and get fresher tyres and get going. So I reckon Dirt Rally will be someone who's going for a pit stop before anybody else.
There's the move now. Spudman going to the outside, and he is going to take the lead on the front stretch. He set him up, used the draft, and flung by Dirt Rally Pro. And there he is. Spudman is your new leader.
Starting at 4th, and like you said earlier, Carmen, I do believe Spud must have had a setup that would take it better on the straights, or it could be simply the draft. These cars are very powerful in the drafts.
Oh yeah, what's the horsepower on these things?
It's very high. I would have to double check on that. I will get back to you on that. As
I believe it's over 500.
Definitely, most definitely. These are a car with a lot of muscle and more low downforce.
And that was definitely power. He set him up, came off the NASCAR 4 banking, and just shot down the front stretch, took the lead with a strong move. So that's put him in the first. Dirt Rally Pro is settled in the second. A little bit of a gap back to Taijo in third. We've got all 10 of the cars that took the green flag. We lost Misty Apex, a technical problem right at the start of the race, but these guys are
I believe, yes, he couldn't make it before the race. His car did have a problem after qualifying. I believe he did go right in qualifying, but yeah, he just couldn't make it before the race.
Looking to try to find any close battles. These guys sorting out a little bit here in the early going, and we're going to wait and see how it's going to play out as we're looking at Taijo back here in third. Let's get on to Dirt Rally Pro and the pulse there and give a little bit of the cockpit. You can see him on the right side of the car as it is the Australian Ford Falcon. Rally Pro lost in real time on that lap before the time, and it comes down to 1, hard on the brakes. Having a little late.
Yeah, okay, I just got the horsepower for it, 645 brake horsepower.
That'll do it. That's definitely enough to get the job done. And that is definitely what Spud did. Let's pick up the onboard here with Spud as he's coming through the infield. Now through the part we call the team. And he is full throttle through there, so that car is working perfectly. Now through the right hand lane. Gotta watch the back end stepping out there. And he's now going to come on to turn 6, which will lead you back onto the straight through the bus stop. Two most important turns on the track coming up. They're building the speed all the way down. Build the speed on the bank, and he's opened up 3 seconds now.
He is already going to take that lead very quickly. What we have to pay out for is how these drivers manage their tyres. I reckon the fuel will definitely last 32 laps, but the tyres is what I'm really looking out for. whose tyres will decrease the most. And that will also all pay to their driving styles of who treats their tyres harshly and more aggressively.
Absolutely. We're used to saying, you know, guys, you can run public races in 5 and 10 laps, but you find out what kind of driver you are when you do, you know, longer endurance races. When you got to use pit strategy and you got to take care of those tires and try not to use them up, you really find out, you know, who's a wheelman. And I just saw split tickets all the way around. I think we got a battle brewing, Taijo and NZ Jack. Taijo's got about a second on the track, but with Daytona and the draft, it looks farther than it is.
Yeah, and all Jack needs to do is keep it as clean with his infield as possible and wait and be patient until he gets close enough until the straights, and once he hits that draft, that's all relaxed for him. And he gets that draft, he can definitely get up to Taijo. As I think we've got a very tight battle between Coolboy and Spaceman as well, both 28, 29 seconds.
Yeah, they are battling for 9th place. That's Coolboy, and I believe these are teammates. Both driving the
I believe they must be.
Yeah, they're both driving the Keeveners cars, And
so team strategy-wise, I'm wondering if any of them are choosing to pit earlier or stay out, or if these two are both just teammates that want to get ahead of each other.
We'll see how hard they're fighting. Right now, they're Spaceman hanging a little back off the Coolboy as they head through the infield there.
Speaking of teammates, I know for the extra team, consisting of Revs Martin and Super Crusher, from past races I've seen of those, I believe that Revs Martin often likes to pit later than Super Crusher, so he can hold up the later drivers behind him. That has happened quite a lot, as Super Crusher may pit earlier, get the tyres fresher, and set his quickest laps without traffic, while Revs is holding up the rest of the field. They are both very quick drivers, but I know that those two can communicate very well as a team, and often always have many strategies behind their backs on how they can work through the race as a team to get both of them, or one of them, the best result possible.
And that is an excellent point there, because the strategy you can do here with tires, whether you choose to short pit, long pit, it depends on the car, and it all comes down to, does the weight of the fuel burn off outmatch the tire wear, which, as you said, you didn't think would be the issue here. So that changes up what you do and when you pit, and also it has to do with where you're running in traffic, how you feel, you know, how quick you are on your own, and how you feel the car's doing. And I think now, just 6 laps in, we got to get a little closer to halfway before we start seeing what people's tires are doing. But as we figured, there'd be a little separation of the pack here, and Revs and Super running right there in the middle, and they're going to be looking to make up some time. And try to run us through the field and give you a little, let Mark chime in on them. We're looking up here at
yeah, I reckon Super and Revs will be playing the long game in this race.
At this point, they'd have to. Spud Mad coming out of the bus stop there in the lead, a little less than 5
second gap almost.
You can see 1:41.1 that last time by. That was the fastest lap on the track, so he has got that thing
by far as well. I think the only thing that can happen to Spud so far is pit strategies, unless he has an accident. But Spud Mad, no, he doesn't only have sim racing experience, but he also does have real life racing experience, where he used to be a Formula Renault driver in the European areas, I believe. So he used to be a Formula Renault driver in the Europe areas, and then he had moved to New Zealand, where he had taken the sim racing, and here he is now. So he has been a very consistent racing driver from all his life, with him having quite a lot of experience driving the cars.
Absolutely. We always say, those of us who have been fortunate enough to be behind the wheel for real in one form or another, understand a little more about taking care of the car and getting the most out of it. He's holding that 5 seconds on Dirt Rally Pro, who is running very quick. He's up in the 141s, and it looks like we got our first line of pit stop.
Yeah, they are 2 of 3 drivers who are able to reach the 141s, as Jack has overtaken Taijo.
Yeah, looks like Jack's gotten by Taijo. We've got NXW and Cool Boy making
their first pit stop of the race. That is an early, that's much earlier pit stop than I'd quite anticipated, to be honest.
I'm wondering if they're fixing damage. I did not see any on the car. Looks like Cool Boy is back out and running anyway. But yeah, it looks like they're going at it right now. Taijo and NZ Jack battling for third place, and CMC's not far behind them. As I was
well, there goes Taijo back in NZ Jack again.
Yeah, he goes right back by him as they're battling out. I was telling the drivers the way that the point system is set up. It's top heavy towards wins, podiums, top fives, paying all the way to the top 10. That top 5 and podium positions are worth a good jump in points, and they're worth battling for. And those top 5 are right on top of each other. CMC back in 5th. He's just a couple seconds. You'll probably see him in the background coming down the front stretch, as he's not far off where Taijo and Jack have this battle for third.
And I know both Taijo and Jack do have a more aggressive driver style than smooth driver styles, as I know these two want to battle each other hard in the Grand Touring Series of the SRI, but unfortunately both of them couldn't make the first race at Daytona. So I believe for the next lot of the season in the Grand Touring cars, I reckon we should be looking for good battles between Taijo and NZ Jack. They always seem to have a great rivalry, but I know these guys are very aggressive in their driving styles. But Rally, however, I believe he's more in between, and Spud, I think he's more of a smooth driver. Out of CMC, you said he was in the Grand Touring race. Were you able to spot a certain driving style from him?
CMC is like an old school stock car guy. He is, I would say that makes him perfectly made for a car like the V8 Supercars. It looks like NZ Jack fell back. He had a little bit of a problem, and he's got a little piece hanging. I thought, no, he looks okay. But CMC moves into 4th. But yeah, CMC being an old school stock car guy, he's made for these. He runs great in the GTEs, and he ran very well in the Grand National stock cars. I think the amount of weight, the muscle, you got to remember the American muscle car culture. Most of the American drivers can handle, with a little practice, can handle something that's got power and body to it. And he's proven it here, as we said, running in 4th place now here on lap 9.
Well, we're going to have to see what happened to NC Jack, because he was battling Taijo very hard before, as they are often rotating places. I don't believe NZ Jack would have gained any damage of some sort, but he must have lost control. And I reckon the tyre pressures with how cold I can tell a lot of these cars seem to be getting colder tyres. As for you viewers watching, to tell how cold these tyres are, you can look to the top right of the screen, and some of the left tyres seem to be getting more blue, which is indicating how cold they are. And with the cold temperatures we're getting here after the rain we had and now overcast, I reckon those cold tyres will affect how they have to handle the car through the infield and the bus stop.
I think what you're seeing too is you're starting to see the tires even up in temperature through the infield, and when they hit the oval, it's heating up the right. And you're going to wear out the front right harder by running on the 31-degree banking of the Super Speedway
yeah, most
section.
certainly.
And so I think you're going to see the tires here as we're watching Rebs Martin. They're going to heat up the rights there. Those start to gain temperature, and the lefts lose temperature as you're on the oval. You can see it right there. The lefts start going blue. So he's losing temperature on the lefts and gaining temperature on the right down through the oval section. So when you get back,
and we can see that live, that the left tires are going blue and the right tires are heading into a darker green.
Exactly.
And
so
as a driver, how do you think this feels with if a right tire is at a perfect temperature, but a left tire is getting quite cold?
I can tell you
that will highly affect the cars later on in the race.
I can tell you from experience. I was in the booth during the Daytona Continental earlier in the GT Sports Car Championship, and I've run that race before, however. And when you're running in a car that's doing that, it feels fine on the oval. You don't need the temperature in the left tires on the Speedway. But when you get into the infield where they are now, that whole section here through the first international hairpin, as you're waiting for the tire temperature to equalize, it feels really poor when you first head down here to the international hairpin and look to make the right. You don't have temperature in the left side tires, and it wants to push you out right there, and that's where, as you see, the tire temperature starts to even up. But that's the toughest part when it's doing that, and you're seeing it more, as you said, because of the track temperature. 62 degrees ambient, 76 degree track temperature. That's actually up a little bit from earlier, but still, that's the feel that you're getting. It makes it, you have to fight it through the 1, 2, and 3 complex, and Super and Revs Martin are just running together, but they're not really gaining time on the front group here.
Yeah, I believe from what I saw earlier to these two, as I said, these guys are people who love to play with team strategy. And as we saw earlier, I can definitely see that Revs let Super go through the infield of the bus stop. Super knew we were watching and gave us a flash of his lights to show what had happened. And Revs had let Super go to give Super a better of a chance to gain some time rather than sitting behind his fellow teammate.
Yeah, they're trying to play the oval as best they can and work together. And even as far back as you see him right there, he's picking up draft from that far back. So he's getting a little bit of a pull. And that can speed you up, but it depends on how much trouble you're having with somebody close to you through the infield. That can offset any gain you get. It depends on how well you're driving together. But as you said, these two have put in a lot of miles together. It's a father-son team, and in the extra cars, and I think that they've got it down, and they're just looking at these guys in front of them, probably thinking at this point, we're trying to work our strategy into the top 5, and maybe we can, we can steal our way onto that podium.
And I know these guys won't be racing any aggressively. That'll be going easy with each other, casually driving, just casually trying to build up their time as the race exceeds on. But as someone who races in the Daytona road course races quite often and has had a lot of experience here, you don't often get too much dirty air, but I imagine you do through the infield and the bus stop. Does dirty air affect these cars too often?
Absolutely, absolutely. Especially we watched Dirt Rally losing it. You were just asked that question. That couldn't have been a better time question. You just asked that question if the dirty air affects you, and that's exactly what we were on board to see with Dirt Rally Pro right there. Especially when you start getting some wear on the tires, and especially when the Live Track 2.0 starts to deposit the dirt that people are kicking up through the bus stop. In that section of track, you're going to have a problem, and right there you saw it. Dirt Rally Pro is coming up on 2 lap cars, and as he came up behind them in the bus stop, he caught that dirty air coming through, and around he went. And that couldn't have been a better demonstration of the exact question that Mark just had.
A better time to bring it up.
Yeah, that was the perfect time to bring it up. You gave him the commentator's curse, but that's exactly what it was.
Oh, I definitely did there. And with the cold tires as well, the drivers will notice how they'll feel through those hard braking zones.
Yeah, that's a tough section, and as the tires go, as I said, it's just going to get worse. The only thing you can do is, I know my strategy, and there's probably more aggressive drivers who will stop with me, but I no longer, once my tires are worn, I no longer think of the bus stop as a passing zone. I'll give 3 or 4 car lengths heading into the bus stop, and then try to hammer it coming out. Because really, if you can just get on it earlier coming out, you'll catch them in the oval anyway. So you can give up that few car lengths just to maintain some better air. But we definitely saw it catch him out right there. And it looks like Taijo and CMC, they're still at it, about a second apart, battling for 3rd.
And CMC's almost going from a 5th to 3rd situation here after Taijo was battling Jack.
Yeah, Jack's not far back either, so those 3 are still very much in
I reckon Jack will be taking
other.
his time to gradually build up speed. But as this race goes on, I reckon we'll see how these tires go as well. They're degraded but not only cold. Me myself has done a lot of testing with my Ferrari GTE around this track, practicing for this track, but unfortunately my mechanical team still had issues. But me myself, when I drive the GTE Ferrari around this track, I am often being quite technical with the brake bias, and I often change the brake bias to be a lot higher through turn 1 in the bus stop. That way it'll warm up those front tyres when they're colder, and it'll feel a lot better for the car when the brake bias is at its front for those tighter corners. So I wonder if some drivers still do this. I believe Supercars is one of those drivers who change their brake bias during the race, but I know some drivers like to keep it the same.
I always say brake bias, and if it's a car that allows the roll bars, I'll make adjustments during the race as the fuel burns off, as the tires wear. I'll be constantly making balance changes just to get the car to feel right. And
because it definitely helps,
definitely helps.
With roll bars.
That's why here we're working lap 13 of 32, so we're getting close to the halfway point, and this is when those tires will start to feel it. And as you said, you got to wonder, you said these guys probably have the fuel to go the distance, and if they do, they're probably going to try to go the distance. And so as you said, it's not just the tire wear, it's not just the coolness of the tires, but the track's gonna start getting dirtier down in turn 1, especially through the bus stop, and especially through turn 6, which is the one that brings you back onto the super speedway. Those turns, there's gonna be more and more dirt and debris building up in there. The oval's gonna get faster as the rubber builds in on the line. The oval will get quicker, but the bus stop and turn 6 are gonna get slower because of the dirt on the track. And I just wonder, these are front-wheel drive cars, correct?
No, they are rear-wheel drive cars.
They're rear-wheel drive cars, that's what I meant to say. But the rear-wheel drive cars, they, I'm wondering, how do they handle a sandy or dirty track?
Well, as dirt rally knows, it's exactly like handling a rear-wheel drive rally car, especially when you get on the dirt. The rear-wheel drive will take control, and you will feel a lot more throughout the rear of the car, and it will cause the front to be a lot more responsive. But also on the other side, I have been lucky enough to get open footage of 2 of the drivers' racing cams, and I currently am looking at Spaceman and Taijo. Both of them have 4% engine damage, and Spaceman's tyres seem to be about 3/4 degraded on the front left, and Taijo's tyres seem to be more 3/4 degraded on the front, on the rear right. So that just says one driver's getting the most degraded on the front left, and one driver's getting the most degraded on the front, on the rear right. 2 completely different tyres, and I reckon that it easily just pays for their driving styles.
Yeah, also a setup that, a tight or an understeering car is going to burn that front off, and an oversteering or loose car, as we're saying in the States, are going to work on that rear. So that tells you, as you said, everything you need to know about how their cars are set up and how they're performing. There's that much degradation, and we haven't quite hit halfway yet. There's going to be some guys white knuckling it here towards the end of the race. And I think the big surprise here is I'm watching here, we're continuing, and we'll give you another quick rundown. Spud Mads moved up from the 3rd spot. He's running in the lead. Dirt Rally Pro is running in 2nd behind him. We've got Ty Hill in 3rd, battling CMC in 4th, and MG Jack in 5th. Super Crusher's back in 6th. Revs Martin 7th. TTV Spaceman in 8th. Cool Boy's running with, I believe, a lap down in 9th, as is NXW. But I think the surprise here early on is you've got the American driver CMC in the top 5, and Super Crusher and Revs Martin, who I was really expecting to be higher up. They're running about 10-12 seconds back from those guys in the top 5.
Too, especially with the team strategies they always throw out together. I thought they would be really putting something into the track, unless they're just playing the long game. But yeah, that's something I'm really unsure of what's going on with it at the moment. I'm going to do my best to see if I can research into some Supercrusher footage, but I can't find any Supercrusher footage at the moment. So I've only got Taijo's and Spaceman's on me at the moment.
I think that a lot of it, we've said this, as this is the first season of the SRI Daytona Speed Week to kick us off, but we've done this going back many years under different sanctioning bodies. The many I've helped run, we always tell the guys, Daytona is Daytona. It's a unique track. It takes a completely unique mindset, drive, setup, the whole 9 yards to get through here. So a lot of these guys have been testing in Bathurst, maybe a couple of Euro tracks they saw on the schedule, but when you get to Daytona and start testing for it, a lot of what you come up with you might have to throw out the window. I know that's true in a lot of other series, and it's the first round, and maybe they just don't have the right car for this kind of track today.
And I reckon most of them don't expect it. I believe the only drivers that had a setup for this track would have been most likely CMC and Dirt Rally. All the other drivers have gotten Dirt Rally set up or tried to make their own. So those were the only two drivers who actually set up for this track in preparation. Most of these other drivers have been practicing for Laguna Seca the most, which is the track that will be later in the schedule. I believe it will be the 9th track.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really depends on where you do the preseason testing. CMC's getting loose right there as we're running in the chase cams with this place engine jack as that's the battle for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the lane. But I think it is a little bit of the Daytona gauntlet here. It's really what it is. It's a tough track to set up for you guys to give in future. We knew it would be a great race. I'll take the chance here as we're watching these guys battle to talk a little about the championship schedule here in the V8 Supercars Championship. We're heading to Imola next week. Long Beach Between Parks, ran through the Japan leg and the European leg. What, other than obviously Bathurst, the Bathurst Quarter 1000 is a big event, and that's going to be the one that, especially the Australian drivers are going to be gearing up to make it. It looks like Spaceman.
I do believe Dirt Rally has a world record on Bathurst as well.
There you go, somebody else.
And who is that going to the pits? Taijo making his pit stop on the 17th lap.
Yep, Taijo pitting just past halfway, so he is making a pit stop strategy here. So we'll try to follow as to where he comes out. They were running 30 seconds back. We'll see if he can gain any time as the Super Crusher also coming in and Spaceman back in 10th. These cars all deciding to make their pit stop now. Revs Martin, as you called it, maybe running a little long. He's staying out at least one more lap. But besides the big race at Bathurst, which you know everybody's going to be keyed up for, what is the race you think's going to be the pivotal one in the championship, the one that you think's going to be the most exciting or tell us the most about the rest of the season?
All right. Well, with how I've set out the season and how the season's been set out, there are 3 endurance races and a few sprint races. Ruapuna will be one of the sprint races, which is with a few of the Kiwis will take their dominance. And then this being the first endurance race of the season, where some drivers we will see surprises and some won't have much less experience. I reckon each track will have its own sort of capabilities that we won't be expecting. I reckon what I'm going to be loving to see is Long Beach. You're going to be under the pretty purple lights of Long Beach, and I reckon with these cars on low downforce, it's going to be hard to overtake at some points, but very easy to overtake at some points. And I know everybody has different setups at Long Beach. And another track, Spa. That's going to be the next endurance race of the season, and I will be thinking it's going to be about 5 to 10 minutes longer than this race. And we will be heading to Spa as it be towards the end of the season.
Be round 8 or 10,
it could be autumn in that
race. It will be
race.
autumn.
We will see more colder weather in that sort of the time with another endurance race. So I reckon my biggest races to look out for will be, I know definitely Catalunya or Imola, just because I know these drivers haven't raced there before, but Laguna Seca, because drivers mostly have done the pre-season testing there, or Ruapuna, as it's a sprint race, a shorter one, for I believe about 35 minutes, and that's where we will see Spud, Matt and Dirt have an amazing battle, I believe. A lot of the drivers think Spud will be gone for the Spud will get the title no matter what. But I've talked to Dirt Rally, and he knows it's not very likely that he can beat Spud. But if Dirt can stay as consistent as possible, in case Spud could have a spin out or lose control or get some damage in one of the races, and Dirt stays consistent, that's where he thinks he has a chance.
That's the best way to do it.
Especially at the sprint race of Ruapuna.
Absolutely. If you consistently stay in contact, and it just takes one bad race, wreck, technical trouble like what we call a blown motor and getting disconnected or something, and you can't score points, that can flip everything around. So it is a 10-round championship, and you just got to keep putting down the laps and putting up the finishes. And we used to tell drivers all the time, if you are consistently in the top 5 and on the podium, then you're going to be a contender. especially with the way the point system is mathematically weighted for that. So by no means will I've seen guys, I myself have won 4 races in an IndyCar season using this point system and failed to win the championship. 4 out of 10. So I've seen it happen myself. So it's going to be a long championship, and as you said, such a great variety of tracks in the V8 Supercars. It's really going to test the cars and the drivers, but we're watching guys make cycles of pit stops. The only 2 I don't think have pitted at this point are Spud Mad and CMC 1-2. Revs Martin, Ty Joe, all those guys have made a halfway pit stop.
So Spud Mad and CMC haven't pitted. I reckon they're either managing their tyres very well,
and right
or
as we
just
say that,
away
Spud
from the
comes
traffic.
in. Spud is making the pit stop on lap 19 of 32. He's got that Vazmac number 2 Ford Falcon into the pit lane, so your leader comes to a clean stop in the pit lane, doesn't miss the box. Looks like he ran light on fuel, so he is going to be taking some fuel on board, which may
And some
extend his
drivers will
time.
do that. Some drivers like to run these cars with a more loose setup. Like I said earlier, if you can get this car, if you can handle the car as loose as you set it up, you will be amazing with the car. And I'm guessing Spud's one of those drivers. Most of these drivers will want to put more fuel in the car than others because this car is easy to handle with more fuel. But there you go. Spud and Dirt Rally are one of those drivers that are able to handle this car very well with less fuel. And I reckon that's what he did.
Yeah, we'll see if it, I mean, he may have had a longer pit stop, having to take more fuel on board. We'll see if that affects him. He gives up the lead here to CMC, who is the last car who was not pitted, and he just ran a 1:43.1, so not a bad lap for CMC, considering his tires have got to be old, but he does cycle to the lead just like he did in the Daytona Continental yesterday in the SRI Supercars Championship. He had a tremendous drive in that race, as I said earlier. He started 13th, shotgun on the field. He drove all the way up into top 5 by the time the pit stop cycle started. He wound up in the lead for a handful of laps. So Brian 79 was the winner and really dominated. He won the pole and led every lap that he wasn't off cycle, but CMC was the guy who came in and took the lead. He wound up finishing 6th with some late trouble, but he really had a great run. And you got to say, being the lone American here in the V8 Daytona 200 today, he has put up a tremendous drive to get to where he is.
And I believe that must be space when a cool boy running fires a back marker, and with him not pitting 20 laps, when do you reckon he's going to pit? A lot of his tyres do seem to be getting much colder now. Even it only seems to be that rear right tyre that's colder. For CMC.
Yeah, he does not seem to have
it's warmer.
Yeah, real hot temperatures on those tires. They seem to be fairly cool. Could be that he's using a higher compound, but you look at that last lap of 1:48.9, so he's fighting that thing. He slides it through turn 1. You've got to feel
Yeah,
like
so his laps definitely are getting slower now. As you can see, he's mocked up there, his tyres are getting worse. But if you don't mind, I'd like to point something out that I found out.
fire away.
We saw Taijo as one of the drivers to make their first pit stops. Taijo has gone with a different strategy. He's gone for a quick pit stop, and he hasn't replaced his tyres. Yeah. So Taijo is winning right now. He's in 4th. I've just gone on to his streaming footage, live streaming footage, and it says Taijo has not replaced his tyres. Unless they've degraded that quickly already, but I know that's not true.
I doubt
if I
that.
go to basement footage, they're fully perfect. So I believe Taijo's gone for a pit stop where he's
Took a splash of fuel. It's tough to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the graphic misleading you, but I tell you how we can see. Taijo in that group was 30 seconds behind Spud. Is that where they were at before they pitted?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he is now within 12 seconds of Spud. So he gained, now Spud took on the extra fuel maybe on the stop, but he gained 18 seconds or so on that pit stop. So he definitely did something, and maybe it was unintentional. Because I would think that if you were planning on not taking tires, you would just take enough fuel to go the whole way. That may have been a mistake, but either way, at the moment, it gained him some time on the track, but he's got Dirt Rally Pro now right behind him. Dirt Rally Pro, obviously, I don't know if he made those repairs, but you can see the front end of that car. He banged it up when he had that spin through the bus stop, and he may be fighting that car. But he ran a 141.2 last time, so I think he's holding on. As you look at,
I do believe it would be graphical issues we are facing here, and that damage did get fixed.
yeah, I believe he's fixed. They just had to pin it up as best they could.
That's gone by. That must have been Taijo that let him go by.
Yeah, that was Taijo struggling with the car. He went down into the grass there for a moment. He's going to lose a little time here.
So it's either he did not pit for tyres, or he went with super soft tyres that have degraded already. Because from what it looks like, because on our footage we can't see how degraded the tyres are. But if I go to Taijo's live YouTube footage, yeah, his rear right tyre is halfway degraded.
Yeah, I have to assume that given the time he made up on Spud right there, that he did something. Now, like I said, it might have been a mistake. He might have meant to take tires and didn't. And now he's just going to have to fight and try to maintain what he has here, as all 10 starters are still going. But right now he's sitting there in fourth. Dirt Rally Pro got by him rather easily into third place. And as of right now, CMC is still fighting and trying to stay out. He's got 18 seconds on Spud, but he's losing quite a bit of time. It's just a matter of time at this rate before Spud catches him. We'll see what CMC's time is coming by, but he has taken the lead, and when he hits the line here, it will be 10 to go here at the Daytona International Speedway.
And CMC yet to make a pit stop. I mean, I can't see CMC's footage, but I can't imagine his tyres are going very well for him at the moment.
No,
and
he's got to be fighting.
He's slowing down. But, I mean, 43, that's decent for the time he's setting. With how far he is in the race without a pit stop, a 143 is pretty well.
It's terrific. Now, you pointed out, we don't know if the graphics lying to us, but he's not putting up as much tire temperature as some of these other guys are. And that could be the key. He might just be hanging on to him and babying him enough. And if at that rate, even if he's losing 2 or 3 seconds to Spud at this rate with 10 laps to go, that might be enough to lose the lead, but it's enough to hang on to second place.
Exactly, that could still put him in front of Dirt or Taijo.
So this could be just a brilliant strategy move if CMC can hang on to it. Well, it looks like NZ Jack is back on the pit lane, and I have to assume that's for damage, and with that front end...
That must be damage.
Yeah, that front end janked up the way it is. That's unfortunate for him. That is, as you said,
yep.
NZ Jack is a definite championship contender, so he's going to have to try to get every point he can out of this. First round of 10 in the championship, so a long way to go. He'll just have to try to hang on, get what he can, and get ready for Imola.
Yeah, and Imola is not one of our sprint races nor our endurance races, something in between, so I reckon it will be easier for the drivers who are more... I reckon, before I say this, I feel like CMC, he may be a driver that's more of one of our endurance races. I mean, you see how well his setup is doing, how long through the race.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like CMC could even be more of an endurance racer.
And he's on the pits now.
We could see him do
is.
so well at Spa and Bathurst. And some of these guys could be more sprint drivers who we see possibly doing better at Rupuna or maybe Laguna or Sakito. Or Sakudo won't be too much of a sprint, but you know what I'm saying. And as
absolutely.
Well, we're going to have to bet drivers who are better at sprint races and shorter races, but then we're also going to have Jack, Dirt, and Spud, the Kiwis, dominating that track, I believe.
And it looks like CMC, after making that stop, he's got it rolling. We'll see where he sorts out. He took it as far as he could. I think he realized 8 more laps, 9 more laps wasn't going to happen. But you got to give him credit for being the rabbit who decided, I'm going to make you guys sweat it and see if I can hang on to it.
But I reckon he's going to be able to hold on to that 4th place. Like, you don't see Revsork Super coming around. They're still at the bus stop, I believe.
Yeah, he's well ahead of
what
those
I can
guys.
see on the track map.
Yeah, CMC's
so that worked out quite well for him.
Absolutely. And also, there's an old strategy, one of my old team owner of one of my old race teams used to say, he's like, sometimes it helps to make a guy chase you. And what he meant by that was, some guys don't do so well when they don't see themselves at the top. Like, even if they can look at the times and see that, okay, I'm going to easily get to him before the end of the race, they still push that little bit harder. Like basically, you can force a mistake by making a guy chase you, and that's part of what a situation like that, what CMC was doing. He did the same exact thing last night in the Daytona Continental sports car race. He just made the guys, he stayed out, took the lead, made some of the guys try to run him, and you're hoping to force an error. But as you said, he came out, he's got more than 30 seconds on Revs Martin back in 5th. As those two, I don't know that, as you said, they're battling for position, but this is a position that's very meaningful with the points table. It's 20 points paid to the winner, 17 for second, 15 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth. And then there's a fall off to 6th place on down to 10th, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that 5th place spot that Revs and Super are currently racing for is worth 5 whole championship points.
Yeah, I believe right now that they've both talked to each other as teammates and stated, team strategy's out in the bin. We can't do anything to help each other at the moment. Just bloody go for it, and whoever does better this race will help out the next race.
Yeah, they have plenty of room.
I reckon they're both fighting for it now.
Yeah, they've got more than a lap on anybody behind them, so short of making contact with each other, I think that they are going to race for it. Looks like NXW's back on the pit. He's a few laps down as well. We'll get a quick look at the timing board here. There are a number of penalties on the board. Spudmad,
so
3 seconds.
We'll have to pay attention to who has what penalties.
Yeah, Spudmad has 3 seconds of penalties. Dirt Rally Pro 2.
CMC was at 11 seconds. I think we have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, he's got 11, so that could possibly come into play. Revs Martin negligible with 1 second. Super Crusher 4, Spaceman 5, 12 for NXW. Those guys are 2 laps down.
There you go. So I guess we could say Jack is basically above Spaceman at the moment. Penalties he has.
Yeah, at the moment that's where he is.
Yeah, so some drivers obviously have been careful enough to really notice how the penalties are on this track. And I noticed as a GTE driver in the past that bus stop, that's definitely one of the places you want to, that the in-game stewards will give you penalties for, but that looks like Revs with a very aggressive overtake, and there we go, just like I said, not the teammates. Oh no.
They're not teammates anymore, they're racing for it now as they were fighting.
Like I said in qualifying, Super is someone that will take the inside line if it. That's just what happened right there. That just reminds me of Rosberg and Hamilton in 2016 at Spain.
Yeah, they're battling it out here for that top 5 spot, which as I said that's a 5-point swing right there, so that's a very big position. And with both of these guys, I think maybe Super Crusher would be more of the front-running candidate, but I definitely would at least put Revs Martin as a dark horse candidate for the championship.
Oh, I definitely agree as well.
These guys are this is going to be a vital position right there. But meanwhile, NZ Jack, he's got about 3 seconds on Spaceman back in 7th. I think Jack be a little bit disappointed with his race. He was expecting to be at least a podium contender, but he's got that thing banged up.
And yeah, he's just someone that did get unlucky with how his car spun or loosened, and he's someone as much of a veteran GTE driver along this track. He has driven his Corvette a lot around this track. He could be possibly used to how his Corvette has handled with a lot more downforce and easy to turn, and with how muscly and meaty these cars are, they only have that downforce at the rear.
And that's a great
point. Due to that.
That's a great point, and that's why we are a multi-discipline league in SRI. We like to encourage the old school AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti drivers that will run in anything. And that's why we have the open entry. You can run in any race that you want. We want to get guys who are willing to do that, and we've seen Jack definitely be like that. Ty Joe is a great multi-discipline driver, and whatever you put him in, CMC. But it really is the specialist right now who are running away. Spudmad, 17 seconds over Dirt Rally Pro with the lead, and he is down inside of 6 laps to go here at Daytona.
And I definitely can't say I'm surprised at all. I definitely can't say I'm surprised, and I don't think I can say that the other drivers are surprised either. And what I said earlier, this is what Dirt Rally has said exactly to me. He knows Spud is going to be ahead of him for a few of the races, and all he said he's hoped to do is stay consistent, and if he can't take that first place, he will keep the second. But what Dirt Rally hopes to do is just hope something happens to Spud while he stays consistent.
That's the way to do it. I myself have I've won a championship without winning a race before, just by consistently being up there near the front and watching guys that weren't as consistent pull it away, as it looks like Super looked to make the pass on Revs and then he lost it.
But yeah, they've changed positions again.
And now they've got...
I think one of them got damaged, and that looks like one of the back markers has gone in between them. Super's not going to be happy with that. I can't tell if that's Spaceman or Coolboy in between them, but yes, Super's not going to be happy about that back marker between them.
Yeah, that was Spaceman.
And I believe that would have been some damage on Super, making it harder for him to get to Revs. That must have been Spaceman, yeah. Spaceman knew he had to get out of the way, but I guess Spaceman must have thought that Super was going to completely get too loose, and Spaceman also thought he should take the opportunity. But after Spaceman knew Super was getting right back on to get back to his teammate, he knew he shouldn't let him by, and well, with lap 28, do you reckon we could see these two battling it out again by lap 30? I'm not sure what the damage Super may have taken. We can't exactly tell.
May have slowed him down. You're looking right here, he's flashing the lights, maybe confirming to us. I don't see any real bad damage, but he might have a little suspension or something.
Yeah, well,
there.
I do believe that must be a confirmation saying he does have some sort of damage, but I guess we could try and wait 2 or 3 laps to see if he catches up to his teammate, but
at the moment, Revs
these
Martin
guys I know are
fifth.
huge on communication and working together, especially with those guys in Andretti IndyCars. These guys are big in their 2 teams they run, in Andretti and Extra, and I just can't believe we had seen them racing so hard. I can tell their team strategy wasn't working out, they must have told each other to just go for it, but not did I expect to see something like Hamilton and Rosberg. That's the only thing I can get reminded of with these two. When I thought those guys were 2 people that bring very big communication strategies to each other.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. You get towards the end of the race and it's time to go, and you know each one feels like they're quicker. And I really just think it was probably just looked like a little lockup coming down turn 1. You're coming off it's a smaller banking, but it's still banking on the tri-oval, and you're coming off the banking into that dirty section of the track. I think somebody lost traction there. They've been so close together all day. But they're going to keep battling here as we're inside of 4 laps to go. We'll try to give you a quick rundown before we go to the closest battle. Spud Matt, as you said, as many predicted, holding out here. And if he can hang on to that 19-second lead for the next 3.5 laps, he will be the inaugural winner in the SRI V8 Supercars Championship. Dirt Rally Pro, meanwhile, back end of that car is a little janked up, but he's still managing to hang on into second place. Ty Joe about 10-12 seconds back from him in the other Razmat car. He's holding on to the podium spot in 3rd. CMC with that great drive coming up through the field.
And I'm very happy to see this. I know I've seen CMC drive these cars, and I know he's quite quick in them, but these guys have driven in championships in these cars before. They have driven these cars a lot and tested at many different tracks, and to see CMC come ahead of them is wonderful to see. And that just says what we were talking about earlier. Someone that knows the track versus someone that knows the car. And this is the result of it.
Yeah, he's definitely done a great job. As Revs and Super still battling 5th and 6th, will stay with him for now, as they are the closest battle on the track.
And I reckon something I love seeing with these two is that they always usually use the same setups. That's what makes them so equal. And when they chuck the two tractors in the pit, they have 2 very equal cars with the same setups. The only difference between them was their tyres, because they were different tyres.
I believe Revs pitted later, and that might be what his advantage is right now. Because if he pitted a few laps later, he'll probably got a little bit more rubber underneath him. The Super Crusher, you can see here on the onboard, is looking for a spot to make a move, because he knows that 5th place spot is worth a massive jump in points.
Yeah, and I guess with Bryce knowing that he had pit later, I know with these guys, team Revs is normally going to pit later, and as commentated in the past and predicted that usually the Revs would be on pit later, and I believe because Revs has the fresh tyres, I reckon he does feel the confidence that he's quick. But I know as Super's an aggressive driver, he will want that 5th place. He will know he wants the championship. But Revs, like you said earlier, is a dark horse. And I completely stand by that. I reckon both of these two have an equal chance to go for anything high in their standings. Well, I know Dirt Run will try and stay consistent as possible to have any hopes of getting the plus one. These two ones will count for running equal setups and team strategies.
I'll give you an interesting bit of data. The championship, the points system that we have, it was calculated using many seasons of data from multiple disciplines of racing. I would say somewhere between 60 and 75 total championship seasons were calculated to get the algorithm for that. And basically what it boils down to is that you're in a 10-race season, your average champion, and this is just on average, there's obviously guys going, you know, breaking the average, but your average, ooh, he gets right back into him. Super Crusher gets into the tail of Rev Martin coming into the International Hairpin. There's contact between the two. But I'll finish the thought real quick. Basically, the average champion in a 10-race season is going to have 2 to 3 wins. They're going to have around 5 to 6 top podium finishes and around 7 to 8 top 5 finishes. That's including races, a couple races where they might have had some damage usually you have, most guys have a couple of races where they're not up there in the front. And if you play your math out like that, it just means that this kind of finish is not going to kill you. You know, you can finish right here in the middle, get in that top 5. And
well, I reckon anyone in this top 7, to be honest, at this rate, can fight the championship.
Oh, absolutely. The way that they're driving, the pace that they're showing, you see the lap times right there. They're all getting down now into the 42s and 43s, and that in and of itself has given us a great show. It was all about the traffic in the early part of the race, but as it looks like Spud working lap 31, he's going to be taking the, over here in the States, the white flag, meaning 1 to go as he crosses the line, and
heads to the bus stop.
Spud comes past the start-finish line. Let's take a look back at the battle before we go with our leader, his fanfare, as Revs and Super continuing to have the teammates battling for 5th place.
And now that it's last lap, these guys on the equal setup and Revs on the fresher tyres. Spud, I mean Super, with how aggressive I know, he's happy to go on the inside of others and on the outside of any corner. He will take any opportunity on the 32nd lap. As you can see, Super getting closer there.
He's going
I reckon
there
what you said earlier about what you do at the bus stop is to take it easy and swing it out. I reckon we can see this from Super.
He's trying to set it up coming down the straight there and try to get the run. But I don't think the damage on the front of that car, that rear end he had a few laps ago, probably put some on there. That's going to hurt you aerodynamically. But meanwhile, up front, where's our man at? He's coming down on the backstretch.
I reckon Revs has a very clean car by the look of it. Hasn't gone through any dirt, any sand. I reckon Revs' car has stayed on the tarmac. His tyres seem to have stayed on the tarmac. His car hasn't hit anything. I reckon with how clean Revs' car is, that's his own. Meaning as no, Super's got that draft very well. Like I said earlier, he went to go out of that bus stop very well. Super's got a great draft. I don't reckon it's going to be a draft enough to go through the finish line, but great job by Super to get closer to him.
Let's check in with the leader as he's coming around for the finish. It looks like there's your man, Spud Mad, qualified 3rd. He has run up to the front early, and he is going to be your winner of the SRI Season 1 V8 Daytona 200. Brings it home, a fantastic drive. Let's get back to the battle.
And I am not surprised. This man is brilliant.
We'll get back to the battle here with Rev and Super for position as these guys bring it across.
2 wide, wow, already. Is that a bit of contact? And while they head up to Spaceman or Cool Boy, that is going to make this battle even more interesting. If this is all going to pay to, now does
he gets out of the way?
Does Spaceman or Cool Boy get out of the way? Does he head to the left a little bit? Does he head off the track completely? There we go. He heads off the track completely. Heads advantages. They head a lot of contact on the straight.
Yep, they're back onto the oval now, and Rev is hanging on. I just think see if he had more car last time by on the oval. But we'll see what Super's got. They're coming up to the bus stop. How Super...
He's going to want to do that same thing to the bus stop and go easy through and hard out.
Absolutely. If he can do that, he has a very real shot here at stealing the position. And he is right
All
on
of
his
this
tail.
goes down to right these 3-4 corners. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't think Super's got it right. He hit a little bump at the end of that corner, but he's going to be trying. He's getting close.
Rev's holding
I don't
that
reckon it'll be
bottom.
enough for the close finish line, though.
Yeah, he's going to try to make him go to the outside, and I think Rev's Martin, I think he's going to
playing
hold
very
him
well
off.
defensively.
Yeah,
he's playing very well defensively, staying that inside line. Yeah, you can tell.
They finished it up. Meanwhile, back over to our number 2 Ford.
Brilliant job, guys.
Number 2 Vazmac Ford Falcon of Spud is your winner. We'll give you the rundown now that we are onto the board. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here are your final results for the SRI.
Oh, and you can just see alone with how much tire degradation they had even after their pit stops. As Snowhawk was one of the drivers who pitted earlier, but still.
Oh, absolutely.
You can tell how hard these guys were racing.
All right, let's give you your final results here for the SRI Season 1 V8 Daytona 200. Your inaugural winner, Spud Mad, with a brilliant run, also had the fastest lap of the race. He is your winner with a brilliant drive. Dirt Rally Pro, your pole sitter, will come home in second. Taijo fighting it up for a podium spot in third. Great run from him. CMC with a terrific run from the American contingent as he will run it up into fourth place. Revs Martin hangs on for that top 5 over teammate Super Crusher, who's in 6th. NZ Jack brings it home in 7th. Spaceman will drive the Huba Chips car home in 8th. NXW brings it home in 9th, and Cool Boy will finish out your top 10 here, as I'll get my screenshot just to have it. And just another fantastic run. Final thoughts there, Mark?
Oh, well, it was amazing. I'm not surprised by Spud, and I did not expect the battle between the 2 extra teams, teammates. Bloody hell, I did not expect that.
Absolutely. Well, we had a great race. We'll catch you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the UK. That'll be the final race of SRI Daytona Speed Weeks for Season 1 with the Touring Car Masters here.
Before all the championships split off into the different tracks.
Yeah, before they head off on their respective tours out of Daytona Speed Weeks. And just once again, a great race. We want to give a congratulations once again to Spud Mad, your winner of the V8 Daytona 200. And we're going to be signing
I also
off.
want to give a props to Jack. I can tell he was racing hard with Taijo at the start of the race, as well as CMC heading into that battle, and he just got unlucky with getting loose. I think which was the bus stop or one of the other corners, and he kept it going in the race, trying to keep it as hard as he could, and
came home with
managing to hold to
7th
seventh place.
Yeah, he managed to get some decent points, and you got to give him props for that. And I think that he'll be coming back strong next week at Imola. But thank you for joining us here on the SRI Racing Network. We're great to have you here with me tonight, Mark. Appreciate you showing up and adding the color commentary.
Well, if I wasn't able to host, I was going to make sure I was able to put in the commentary.
Absolutely, and we'll look forward to seeing you back in the car next week. Well, for Mark C, this is Carlin Hicks. We're going to be signing off.
Well, now that we have the channel open, I'm hoping to continue some commentary with the rest of them.
Absolutely, and we will catch you next time on the SRI Racing Network. Have a good night, guys.